Welcome to another CSGO map analysis video. We are right on schedule. It is Tuesday, the 25th of February. I had to break character for a moment to check that. I'm also going to check who made this map. Who made this? Who is responsible for this? Oh, perfect. This is the one that I don't actually have in my document. This is why I kept forgetting it existed, actually. So this one was made by Lizard and TheWhaleMan. Those guys, I mean, those are some pretty good names, if you ask me. Anyway, Chlorine is a map that's kind of similar in... I mean, obviously, you see right here, it says The Aztec. It feels kind of like a modern look on a quote-unquote Aztec theme or something like that. Whereas obviously it's less green than the actual map, Aztec. It has some details, and I think the lack of green is probably a good decision anyway, considering the models that everybody's rightfully flipping out about. Nice face, like that. So, this is indeed T-Spawn, and we are going to go take a look at this map. My initial impressions after playing this map for quite a while is actually one of the maps that I've played the most out of all of the MapCore maps. I think it's because I found it before I even knew that the MapCore contest was near its end. This is like months or a month before I started even making these videos again. And yeah. So I've definitely spent some time with this map, and as a result, I think I am even more equipped than usual to rant about it for 30 minutes. So let's head over to B. As you can see, there's this like side entrance. Oh, actually, before I even do that, there is a comment that I wanted to make about the sound staging over here, where at the start of a round... here, I'll just do this again. So as you can hear, based on this, there is indeed the sound stage, right? There's some sort of soundscape happening. And Mom and Hacker, those are good names. But as a result, I think it always plays the same from the same point as far as the soundstage goes. It's also weirdly more apparent when you're over here. I don't know if it's meant to be like something that's coming from speakers in the system, or if it's actually meant to be like animals in the distance. But regardless of what it's meant to be, it does seem oddly faded out when you're over here, whereas you'd think it would be more towards this area. But even if that's not the case, and that's just me being silly, I do think that there could be some benefit to starting you off at a different sound, like a different point in that loop. Basically, like sometimes you're 30 seconds ahead from the start of the loop, and sometimes you're 15, and so on and so forth, so that there's less repetition every single time. Because I remember when I was playing this map on T-side, it would become very, very obvious that I would... the desire to alt-tab out of the game for the freeze time was very strong, I'll put it to you that way, because the sound just ends up getting kind of grating. Epic clipping. That's one of them buried treasures, I think, that barrel. So here's some interesting areas for you. You know, you can see there's some spots to throw some nades. And this actually does impact over here. There is an open skybox into mid, so I'm pretty sure if you happen to be standing over here, you would get your ass flashed, especially if you happen to be scoped up over here. So that's kind of interesting. I like the idea that there's ways for you to do that, though obviously you don't even have to be in that room. In theory, you could just throw it over here, and yeah, that might even be better or worse depending on the angle that you're trying to flash. But I like the fact that just because of the open skybox, in here you immediately see another reason to journey over into this little nook and cranny, even if you don't plan on taking B control, even if you're immediately going to rush mid and you're not even setting up for a default to try to take map control, you don't even have to go into mouth, hippo, whatever, the dragon, I don't know what the fuck that's supposed to be, but you don't even have to go into there to get to B, even if you just plan on like immediately going to over here and filling into mid like the rest of your team. There is a reason to be over there. And so I like the fact that the open skybox has already had some sort of benefit to this map in terms of its construction. So notable that you cannot pop those. And what else do we got here? I'm sure there's some lineups that you could find over here. I actually was not able to find too many lineups into the B bomb site because their only little area that you can get into... yes, this is a very trippy opening, or upper part. But the only area that you can get into, as far as this bomb site goes, is by throwing nades through this. So that's something where I'm not really 100% sure about. It definitely means that, like, you know, unless you were to open up the sky, like some areas up here or some sort of other area over here, that you probably wouldn't be able to find any reasonable lineups. But suffice it to say, you know, it doesn't seem too difficult to find some reasonable lineups in that area. I don't know about trying to... You could probably easily find a lineup that would land there, but I don't know about, like, successfully throwing the utility so that it's landing on the upper part. Particularly if you do that second one. So I don't exactly know how you would smoke that off. I'm sure there's some lineup. I didn't even look for smokes this time around. But I guess if you end up smoking off just this default plant area, which is the first smoke that I threw, you are kind of impinging visibility a little bit. And I guess if you threw that second one that I said not to throw, you actually are impinging visibility even more, right? Because that's the same one that I just said don't throw that one. But actually it ends up covering you a little bit, although it might just be a one-way. Let's test that. Well, it definitely makes it a little bit more challenging. So if you want to have a higher percentage shot, you'd have to be jumping over here. And especially since Valve just idiotically nerfed the op even more than it was before. Well, obviously that's going to make it so that you're not going to want to hold an angle with an op, that especially if you're required to move around and actually be mobile while also being accurate. So if you missed that, that's well, that's some tism. Don't look at the patch notes. But yeah, so this is the B-bomb site. Interesting little trick here. And by trick, I mean trick that the map makers did. They actually made this start flashing when the bomb is planted here, which I think is cool. I would have liked, and even more bonus points would have happened if this was the case, where this actually would be like flashing in accordance with the bomb timer flashing. So like as the bomb starts to beep more often, this would also beep in sequence with that, because that would be epic, just saying. But that being said, we'll just fly back over there. I just wanted to show that off because I think that's cool. So, you know, starting points anyway. Definitely could make that even better. But, yeah, got some cheese. I don't know what that's about. Some other Easter egg that I don't know about. Maybe whales like cheese. Do lizards like cheese? Post in the comments if you have a lizard. Put your lizard in this envelope and send him to my mail zone. My web zone. I don't even remember what reference I'm referencing at this point, but something about Plinkett. Anyway, some skill jumps to be made. Can you even jump up here? I assume you can. It would be kind of awkward if you couldn't. Okay, interesting. So there's a little bit of a, you know, some boost areas. I didn't really use this when I played because I was mostly playing with or against bots. The few PvP games that I did play on this were kind of limited. Wow, you got some Half-Life 2 water over here. Not a compliment, in case you were wondering. But yeah. Interesting, I assume you... Oh, you can even do this. Now this is epic. Well, it was almost epic. Oh, I've got a god mode again because I ended the round, I guess. Can you really not... you can jump all the way up here. You can self-boost. Well, you have to really do that quite a few times, I guess. I can imagine this being like... because the T's can take it up through mid, obviously. So this could be a really funny... funny epic gamer movement if they end up doing something like... you know, boosting up here. And the team doesn't clear that, right? They just immediately come down here. And he just falls upon them like a tod of war. Only 99 cents for Pop Dog. Yeah, well, 99 cents. Was it Fur that was trying to play that area on Train recently in a series? He just got absolutely demolished every single time. Probably was Fur. Anyway, we're heading into CT spawn from here. I feel like there's kind of too many passageways in between mid and B and CT and the B entrance or whatever. Like, middle is its own thing, and I guess we can just talk about that before we go to A. So first of all, let's show off CT. There's some interesting art in here anyway. They clearly put some time and effort into the art. I just don't know how well it turned out at the end of the day. I'm pretty sure performance is going to be... tough on this map, and they do have new CT models, which is pretty cool. Even though it's just a palette swap. Nice to see some variety. And probably came from the fact that like they will stand out in this map which is nice. And another reason why it was so idiotic for Valve to pull the microtransaction plug, or not pull the plug, but to press the microtransaction button, I should say. They should pull the plug. Unbelievable. Anyway, yeah, FPS is kind of low in this area, but and it was kind of low in T-Spawn as well. That's just something that will probably get optimized over time, hopefully not at the expense of graphics, but you could definitely clean this area up and make it less StarCraft 2-esque visually, and less, what's another term for this? I don't know, just less cluttered, probably. Like, some of the area reads like, especially this water, which again, that's satanic. But you just have to wonder what is going on here, like what the motivation of the developers was, or were. Motivations were. Motivation was. There you go. English lessons with Pronogo. Yeah, I don't know what the hell their motivations were when it comes to this sort of thing. I think, again, especially since I just saw Basalt, like I just reviewed that one, right, recently enough. I think it was before Ivory. Like, it's so much different to go from Basalt to this, or Basalt to any other map in this contest so far, because of the fact that that's like super clean cut. You know, some people would even say that it's not detailed enough or something, but I think it's like in a really, really good spot as far as readability is concerned. And no fucking question about it, it performed pretty well too, at least on my hardware. So comparatively here, Ivory and this map also definitely have some performance issues so far. And I don't know if that's related to clutter. I know it's probably because the source engine is a Frankenstein monster and really was not fit to be used for game development, but at the same time, it's like, okay, these are the tools you have. This is what you got to work with. There's paradigms within the experience of developing within this engine, and so you've got to try to figure that out. Oh boy, pizza. But I just... What is that sound cue? Oh, that's some Z fighting is what that is. And that's pretty epic. I like that. I mean, I don't like that. It's dumb, but I like the fact that it is dumb. You know what I mean? It shouldn't be here, but as long as it's here, we may as well enjoy it. Well, pick up on some sound cues. The hollow cardboard boxes are in there. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, this map at least has a visual theme, right? Ivory was just kind of like, there's jungle. This map is like, okay, we sort of have that jungle thicket going on, but it's also sort of like some weird theme park. And I like that. I think that the theme is interesting. And visually, I think they do deliver upon it. It's just that that's great for a map that's meant to be a theme map or some sort of visual display. Not so great for reading Counter-Strike battles. At least I'm not super convinced that it is yet. Certainly it can be adequate. It's not more or less cluttered in a negative sense. Like rather, the clutter doesn't make it more or less suitable than any of the default maps in CS. Like the actual ladder maps, like Dust 2, for example, the update to that really made it crazy in terms of clutter. Now, sure, you can strip a lot of that down with lowering your settings, but I don't believe that you should have to reduce the quality of your visual experience in order to get a better, like, game visual experience, I guess. Like, you shouldn't have to reduce visual aesthetics in order to improve visual readability. It's like a good way to encapsulate my thoughts in just one sentence. And that sort of axiom or whatever the term would be there, that I feel like that's just kind of a truism, and it would be nice if it was respected. And I'm just not sure that it was for this particular map. Anyway, this is mid. Hey, I think I smoked off the T ramp. Anyway, yeah, well, let's talk about mid anyway. Let's talk about gameplay as opposed to visuals for a sec. Like I said, the theme is pretty consistent, and at the very least, unlike something like Anubis, for example, which I criticized for being too samey, this map does feel very different from area to area. And I do like that there's a certain amount of skill jumps associated with this map. Like this one, I don't know if you would call this a skill jump, but like I'm really bad at KZ and all that other movement stuff. But I still land this one pretty well after, training on it for a while, and it's pretty nice that there's something like that. I always prefer the idea that, again, there I don't know how to long jump, so I don't really know what I'm doing there. But if you do like the jump at the last second and then crouch, you can hit this most often, and it saves you so much time when you're trying to rotate back. I don't think you can do it at any other angle. Like you can't do it like that. You could probably do it, like, I'm sure you could do it if you hit a B-hop or something. Good luck doing that with my FPS so low. But, yeah, no, I like the fact that that's there. Because it obviously costs you time in theory if you fail it. I think you still can like miss this once and then try it again before you get all the way from, like, if you're already in this position and you fail this once and then you fall down and try it again, that's probably still faster than going all the way around and doing something like this. Because again, you can't really make it to this ladder without a boost or something, which I think, again, I think I like. I think that's neat. So like this is like a T or CT quick rotating over here to try to pincer, and just the fact that you can cut down that time by like 5 seconds or something crazy, maybe even more than that, adds a layer of unpredictability where, like, you know, high skill players are going to hit that most often, and the fact that you give a sound QA if you miss it is pretty nice. I don't remember. Okay, you do give a sound cue away just like as a normal footstep if you hit it, but that's still better than, like, obviously dropping, obviously. But I guess that sound cue is different enough that you should know based on that. So I don't know. I think it's neat, and there's also some interesting angles to take here, even though this area of the map seems a little, again, a little busy. The fact that a lot of the doodads, if you will, have been relegated to the ground below where people are actually going to be, even if they're crouching, was a nice touch. Although obviously that's not the case for these torches, which have some impressive fire effects that are also clipping through the bottom there every now and then. Or no, maybe it's just this one. We won't look too closely at those. I don't know what the angle is either. The wind must be blowing in some way or something. But yeah, so this is like the CT end of it. Anyway, the CTs are going to come out here. And I have not tested timings, but if we pretend that we are Mom. Hi, Mom. And we say 20. And again, we're just trying to get a feel for about what the contact point would be in this particular case. So again, we see it at like 14, so that's 6 seconds. And we're actually halfway here at 10. And then we're here at 8. So yeah, 12 rather. So that's a situation where, like, you are looking into T-spawn at that point. And now we're going to try from here at 49, 50, we'll say 5. And that's about the spawn. I mean, it's fine. All right, so yeah, we definitely beat the CTs here. And yeah, I mean, I guess, like, the fact that Ts can already hold this down, generally speaking, especially if they have a decent spawn. And I think most of the spawns are favorable for this particular situation. I forget what the command is to look at those in-game. I don't even know if there is one, but I'll have to jot that down for future reference if there is. I'll look that up later. But yeah, the fact that we have a situation where the CTs actually have a favorable angle into mid, but the Ts have a favorable set of grenades that they can throw. They can throw it from all the way over here, outside of Dragon. They can throw it from in here, which I guess you would call, like, I don't know what you would call this. Cooler, octopus, whatever. And obviously they can just come right out here and then throw this. And well, that particular one may not do it because it's like behind the pillar. Yeah. But obviously you can throw some nades. And the fact that, like, just getting here doesn't really mean anything because then you still have to pick up an angle or something. And that's going to take you some more time, right? So I'm thinking of where are you in a position to actually take a fight? And I think the play might actually be to come over here, and then no, that's going to take way too long. So you would want to come over here, have somebody like sitting there at the entrance watching this angle, and you would actually want to come over here and take this position. Obviously, this is really risky, especially if you're solo mid, although I don't know why you would be. But something like that could be a play that you could make as CTs. And I feel like that would be, like, an aggressive enough, especially if you end up having, like, that first guy with the rifle, just like, he comes out over here and, I don't know, maybe he throws the smoke or something. That would not pop in time. So I don't actually know what the smoke would be that would pop in time, but there's got to be something that works for this sort of things, just so that you can take, like, a dominant position. And the fact that, like, I'm sure there's some sort of lineup in here, assuming this is indeed open skybox. It's just, again, like, I'm not sure what the actual lineup would be. I'll aim a little bit higher. This could be it, but probably won't be. Yeah. So something in that area might work out. Maybe a jump throw or something, or a slight run throw. But I like the fact that the option is there anyway, to use these open skyboxes to our advantage. Yeah, that would definitely land sooner, and if you manage to avoid hitting the bridge there, you'd probably be in pretty good shape. We'll try these two, and then that'll be our last two attempts. Yeah. So I guess the first one would be better, but somewhere in between the first two attempts would be better. Would probably be the best. That would seal this off, even though it would take a while to bloom. But still, like, by the time you're over here taking the peak, like, you could just watch it, or you wait for it to bloom and then peek, see if they pushed it. And then obviously, like, that gives you opportunity to take other positions, because you can't see that little nade window. You can't actually take an angle as CT against that really anywhere, because, like, obviously you have to come out here, right? If you take this really long rotation and come out here, then you're in a situation where you're still only looking down here, but you are approaching it from a different angle at the very least, which will throw off the tees. But even then, like, yeah, in order to actually get over here and look through that, you really have to be in a weird angle. Like, you can sort of see it from here. You can jiggle it. I don't even know if they'd be able to see you. You would be able to see them from that angle, but it would be super, like, difficult. And like, obviously, you can also just drop down here if you, like, you take a few shots, and then you drop down here and try to do that. Like, there's ways that you can do it, right? You can definitely play these angles. So it seems like the angles were properly developed anyway. I'm trying to see if I can, like, find an area where I can, sort of similar to, like, that overpass area on B site, but I don't think, because I'm trying to make a jump here that's gonna, oh, I think I saw some Z fighting. Yeah, I'll let you decide that on the video. Yeah, I feel like this could be an interesting place, right? Because then you can just, or more than likely you'd be doing that, but obviously you have to practice it so you don't fall down like I just did. Because if you do fall down, you are in a shit position, man. They hear you falling, especially if you have no backup. I mean, if you do have some backup, right, you can do something like this. And then, like, I'm trying to see if you would even be blinded. Yeah, you would definitely see that, though. This is the thing. Like, if you come out here and you see somebody jiggling in that area where I was just shooting, you could get absolutely, you could destroy them. And then if they fall down, you see that flash coming a mile away, I feel like. So there's got to be some flash that will get them. But I guess that's like a way to guarantee it, right? It's like your teammate from B would have to do something like this. And then that would potentially help you out. But even that, maybe not. They would have to probably, like, run through or something. Anyway, we'll show off B in a second. I'm just playing around with angles, trying to get, like, a feel for who would win out on engagements here. Because while you cannot, as CTs, peek into that area, if you could, it would be really broken, because that's, like, the main approach. Even if you come through this door that we showed off earlier, which I want to talk about that door in a second. Even though this door exists and you could come out of it, it's still like, okay, there's like a separation over here, which apparently is bangable. So it's not bangable over here, but it is over here, which is interesting. How much damage do you actually do? Well, I guess I don't know. Enough. So that's dangerous to get tagged through with an op, probably. So just leave the bomb in a clipping area casually. Where are we going? All right, so, oh, did it get, no, it's in there. Perfect. Actually, you disappoint me. Oops. You actually disappoint me. That's funny. I was trying to get it trapped in jail, and I guess I couldn't cut the cheese. Anyway, I like the fact that there's a lot of angles and a lot of things to think about over here. Open skybox is always a plus. I talk about that in every single one of my videos. Mostly open skybox. I can see some areas where, like, if you design a map and it turns out that nades are too situationally powerful, at least on paper, to be handled by one team or another, maybe then I can understand closing off the skybox. But to me, that's more like a failure of your map, in a way. And that's not a fully formed argument. I'm still thinking about that one. But to me, it seems like It makes more sense as somebody who prides themselves on their maps being somewhat like understandable in my home game of Brood War. Like, things should be logical, even though some of that logic is dictated by the game. Just like things shouldn't be too visually realistic, because then it's hard to read. You don't want you do want to have some logic thrown out in favor of gameplay, but at the same time, I don't think that having grenades bounce off of skyboxes is one of them. Now, obviously, there's a bunch of strategies that get opened up by that, like on Inferno, for example. But yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe it is indeed situational. I would prefer it if all maps had open skyboxes, and then we figured, we sort of let God sort them out, if you know what I mean. Just figure that one out. This is fucked. I don't know who did this. I don't know who is responsible for this, but they need to fix this. Anyway, let's go out to A. We'll go from CT since we went from T to B. Like I said earlier, though, before I do go to A, this is interesting because I think that every single point that you look at this map from, it makes sense initially. It's just like, holistically, I don't know if this area is all that, because of the fact that there's so many different pathways into and around this area. And they're all in hallways, basically. Like, it ends up feeling too samey. And I wonder if maybe opening up this area, and sort of turning this area where there's like this wall over here, making this whole area just a pillar of some sort, or some sort of piece of cover, like a really large set piece of cover, and then having the whole thing be open, like from here to here, like removing that chunk. So then basically you would turn this wooden plank here. This would be like a real thing, right? That would be a main piece of cover for going down this pathway. But otherwise, you open up this whole area. I think that makes the most sense. Oh yeah, I forgot about that sound cue. That's great. I think that would make more sense for this area and help it feel a little bit less claustrophobic and a lot less samey as well. So you would basically be taking this whole position, like from to my right to this area would be opened up, and then where this graffiti is would remain, and where this A graffiti is, as well as this whole area, that would remain as well. I'm not sure if I'm doing a great job of explaining that visually, but to me that makes the most sense to change this particular area, because then you have a situation where there's more openness to the map, and it doesn't feel as clustered and as as claustrophobic, because right now it feels kind of dizzying to walk through this area for me. So maybe the map makers will have already figured something out there. I'm sure if once this map, assuming it is accepted into the map pool, I'm sure that somebody will be like, did you know you could bring this thing all the way to B and then hide the bomb in it? Oh. Reddit. Oh yeah, one other thing over here. This needs to go. And I don't mean like the whole concept needs to go. I mean the fact that I can't walk through it needs to go. Like, this is just ridiculous. Come on now. Why can't I walk through this? Why do nades bounce off of it like it's made of fucking metal? And then again, it's not a grenade clip rush, so I'm pretty sure, like, if you throw a nade and it lands over here. Well, I don't have a good way to test that because friendly fire isn't on, but I'm pretty sure you would absolutely destroy my mom, so don't do that. Trying to think of what else. This door makes sound only when you, after it's already opened. That's interesting to me because it means there's a couple seconds. Also, what the fuck? There's a couple of seconds where you can press it, and then like you can already be peeking somebody who's here or wherever, who's just listening for a sound cue. That's going to be really interesting if it stays that way. And I'm not even saying it's good or bad. I just think that it's interesting. It's a wrinkle for at least I don't think there's been a competitive map that has had a door like that makes the sound only when like it's already opened. It finishes its animation and then it makes the sound. That to me could be really neat. and could lead to like, you want vision of the door, or you want to be safely away so that you hear it before you can be taken by surprise by them. You know what I mean? Or sort of like treat the door like it's not even there, because by the time it gives you any useful information, that guy might already be out here. You know what I mean? Now, obviously, you could be hearing sound cues of them walking, but you don't always know. Like, there are sometimes, like somehow, okay, so there would be a strategy developed here. Nice clipping, by the way. Nice fighting. There would be a strategy developed here where there is this metal trim. Sometimes you can hear me step on it. Yeah, like that last step that I just made. But if you get close enough, you can step over it, well, for one, without making any noise at all. But for another, you could step over it, basically. So, like, imagine this. And you don't really know, like... You can't tell based on the sound cue that he's not just stepping over here, you know what I mean? So it doesn't immediately sound like anything, like he's actually crossed a threshold. So I don't know if that could be fixed through a sound cue, if the developer even wants to fix it. I think it's fine to let it play out that way. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that. That was what I was going to say about that door. On the approach to A, you immediately see more passageway insanity, and I don't even mind it in this particular case, unlike the claustrophobia over towards the middle area of the map. So we do have this upper area, and you can indeed self-boost onto here relatively easily. So there's no issue there. The bomb site is over here, spray painted over here, very helpful. I don't know why. I don't know who's helping out the terrorists, but they're doing it. And so obviously this approach is another one of these hallways, and the cover, like the walls or whatever, are designed basically to help you avoid firefights on a rotation. Obviously, like that's something that's kind of subconscious. Most people have already figured that out without me having to articulate that, but I think it's interesting to make note of here because just like in mid, I can't decide who it favors, the approaching team or the defending team. Now, obviously that depends on utility, and I guess that means it's a good thing, right? Because if you flash over here, right, and then you take a peek with that, obviously that means you have to make noise. That just means they'll be looking at your flash. But I think it's interesting that you can do that. And obviously this is one of those things where, like, based on the fact that you can self-boost up here, there's a lot of ways to not just elevate your Z, which is what I like to say all the time, but you can also just completely change the pathway that you can threaten from. And like you could do something like this to peek somebody over here. You can do something like this. You can do something like this. And then after you've already, like, say you're in a 1vx or something, or you're just approaching the site like normal as a CT, they've already taken it. You can do something like this, kill a guy, and then reposition very quickly, especially if you got better movement than me, and then take another fight over here. There's a lot of options for you to do. You can do it there where you're vulnerable, or you can even come back here and do it here. And the fact that they have to factor that in, whoever the defending team is, has to factor that in from that approach, I think is really neat. So I really like the approach. It's just that once you get to here, I'm not really sure about the architecture of this area. And again, your angles are probably going to be like here and here. And like maybe somebody could be hiding over here, I guess. But assuming they just have site control and nothing else. Or maybe like for obviously like T side control as well as the actual A site. You could do something like this. You jiggle this. You come out over here and do that. And like those are your two spots, really. There could obviously be another one, because I'm pretty sure you can boost onto here. Yeah. And so you could be holding this for the middle rotation, because this is the area into mid. So somebody could be coming over here, and they would have to not only check like here, here, here. They also have to check this, and here, and probably there, like something like that. So I'm pretty sure you can. I don't know if you need a boost or what, but yeah, you can like get over here, which obviously allows you to get over here, and then you can take this. This is a ridiculous fight. I mean, people who don't know the map are going to get destroyed by that angle a lot, but I don't actually know if you're vulnerable. Or visible, rather. So if we do, there we go. It's like, this guy is obviously pretty visible from this angle, but I don't know about... Yeah, I guess it's a nice headshot angle, right? So, not too bad, but I kind of figured that you'd be much harder to see, but it looks like that's not the case. That's pretty cool, actually. But I'm pretty sure that's also super spammable. We can figure that out. Yeah. So as a result of being super spammable, that's one of those situations where you kind of don't want to risk that particular area, especially if they haven't... Well, maybe if they have an op, it's like less likely that they hit you, but I'm pretty sure you're just going to get annihilated if you get shot through that. Anyway, site has some interesting angles, and the fact that the CTs actually are going from an elevated position to a de-elevated position, like a lower position, and then back up to an elevated position, the fact that there's that interplay, like if you're a CT and you're trying to actually take the site, there's a lot of Z at play over here, which is not really the case for the B bomb site. The way that we went back to the B bomb site is that you're starting out lower, and then you're either even ground over here, even ground over there, or upper over here. Whereas in this case, it doesn't really matter where you come in from. You know, I guess where you come in from will dictate what your initial height advantage is, if they're above you or if you're above them. But you're never on the same you're never really on the same playing field as them. The closest is probably like over here, because this is obviously sunken in. But I just like that the elevation is a nice little wrinkle, and it's a unique aspect of this particular bomb site when compared to the other one. So I think that that's really neat. We come over here into the T rotation of this area, and this is actually one of the most nice looking areas of the map, in my opinion. You can't boost on top of that. Oh, I can jump infinitely. That's probably some clipping that needs to get smoothed out. This is one of those areas where I have a feeling, you know, you're going to have a lot of people who are taking some defaults over here or something. It looks like you should be able to jump up here on your own, but you can't. I guess this is like a fast boost or something. That's why that board is there. I don't know what's going on there. Maybe the board used to be there as like a little bit further up to let you jump over, and now it's been moved down, and that's like a reference to that earlier version. But you can obviously very easily self-boost on top of here. And of course, if you do, there is this tactically placed angle, although nobody can really hold it. Like, I guess that you could be like super aggro over here, but even then, like, I'm trying to think of like what you'd be right here. So, no, okay. I mean, that's about it. That's about the same place. Yeah, you actually are not going to be seen. I guess that's mostly just for nades then. I don't really like that nade though. I would much prefer something like this. Right? Because then it blinds people who are coming in. Well, maybe it blinds people who are coming in. Oh, this actually blocked it, I think. Yeah, it blocked most of it anyway. Interesting. Alright, well. Get out of my way. There's a professional at work here. This little side room is obviously a way to even up your elevation with the CTs, or with the defending team, I guess, if you're approaching here after a flank. These benches are probably mostly just used to like help you take an angle into here, but notably you can't like just walk up to it. You know, you have to actually jump, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but everybody who's taking a firefight knows you don't want to be starting it out jumping. Although, I mean, jump attacks, right? They do work sometimes. Just throw your opponent off. Had to think about who to headshot there. But, yeah, I think the fact that there's so many different areas for you to self-boost, you could probably hit that jump that I was just trying to hit if you weren't terrible. Oh, yeah, notably, you can't actually jump up here from anywhere, I don't think. Unless you're all the way around. Yeah, because you can't, like, sit on here like that's a ledge. So if you wanted to get up here, you have to boost, which is interesting. There's a lot of stuff here related to boosting and teamwork and self-boosting and movement. And I like that it's at play at pretty much every point in the map. And the reason why I was coming over here and saying that this is like the best looking part of the map is that it's so obvious to me where everything is, like what everything does. That's what I meant by like aesthetically when it comes to aesthetics, clearly, like I said, there's effort put into it. I can take it or leave that. I don't really care. because that's not what I'm after. I'm after gameplay. And as far as the gameplay readability and visibility of this area is, it's like very clear. I can boost up here. I could take the long way over here and then cross this and make a lot of noise. I can also just be like if I don't boost, right, and I do take this long way over, then I'm risking my feet being shown over here. I'm pretty sure that happens. If somebody's taking vision. Oh, okay, never mind. They would really have to be over here to see that. But obviously, I'm risking noise on this, and I guess you could probably be jumping for info over here. And obviously, if CT is positioned down here, they could be taking an angle like this, which would keep them safe from over here, but would allow them to shoot you if you're walking past. So this is kind of more vulnerable, which is usually the opposite. Usually you see longer areas actually being less vulnerable. But I guess the safest would be boosting your teammate over here. Just the fact that you can do that is really neat to me. Like, you can boost a teammate over here and have him be something just doing something like this. Holding for any CT aggression. And the CTs would have no idea he's here. You know, he could also come in over here and just eliminate positions. That could be really neat. I don't know. There's a lot of wrinkles in here. And I like the fact that there's so many different areas of the map that allow you to, you know, take approaches based on your level of skill when it comes to movement and your level of skill when it comes to just understanding the map and overall. I just like that. I think it's really cool. So that's my my spiel anyway. As an overall understanding, like a top-down look, right? Literally in this case. We have a situation here where we're looking at a map that obviously had time put into its visuals. I'm not really showing those right now because I'm breaking the map, but that's okay. A little worse for wear when it comes to performance in some areas. I assume those will be smoothed out as time goes on. A little bit sore for readability in some areas as well. Craftsmanship could also use some work in different areas when it comes to the visuals, but I'm not a 3D reviewer. I'm here to review the gameplay. And I think that the bomb sites are sound. There's some really interesting firefights that can happen at the A-bomb site. I didn't really talk about positioning on the B-bomb site as much because I don't think it's quite as interesting. There's just, frankly, there's not that many opportunities that you can take. Like, obviously, you can boost up here and then use this to platform over here and then take a forward position. Or you could just skip all that nonsense and I guess you could do something like this. Oh, did he actually, or whoever was responsible for this one may have... Epic. May have made it so that I can't do that. I don't exactly know what the deal is with that, but you can self-boost your way over here anyway, so it doesn't even matter. There's a couple of different positions that you can take. There's also this little nade window that doesn't seem to go anywhere. Is this some sort of next level extra bit? Was that just cut from the game or something? Or the map? I don't know what the fuck that is, but I think that there are some interesting fights you can take on the approach. Obviously, this sneak temple area is like the generic... well, it's, I wouldn't say it's generic per se, but it's like most areas have one bomb site that has one major approach to it. But at least the wrinkle here is T's can take mid control and use nades and all that other good stuff. And then all they need to do is like come up this ramp and cross this bridge. Now, I say all they need to do. Obviously, they're opening themselves up to angles anywhere in mid. They're opening themselves up to angles from over here in the A-bomb site, and they're opening up themselves to angles from the CT side of mid. And CTs have beat them in the rotation over to this particular firefight. So that's why one of the reasons why I strayed away from providing any criticism or not criticism, but like ideas for changing up the area over here, because I recognize the importance of this particular angle, like these fights here. I just think that if you clean up those two areas that I was talking about earlier, you would have a better approach and rotation and space around CT, and that would help make it so that, I mean, I guess it would make it somewhat harder for Ts that are coming out here to clear all CT angles and vice versa if this area has been lost to one team's map control or another. But I do think that it would be an overall better for readability, and it would probably be better for movement in general. I do like that you can jiggle peek around this too. That's pretty neat. But yeah, I do think that B-bomb site, like the depth of the B-bomb site is more so about how a team takes it as opposed to how a team retakes it or regains control of it, if that makes any sense. Whereas A is like cool to take and cool to retake. So that's probably one of those things where it's kind of similar to Dust 2 in a sense, a much more abstract sense, not in terms of geometry, but it's like the B-bomb site is much more difficult for a team to regain control of if they ever lost it. And the A-bomb site is more like not quite fair in terms of 50-50 or whatever. It depends on utility a lot. It's like super situational, I think. And then you go from that into looking at the firefights on the bomb site that can happen. It seems like it's more exciting and more varied. And I like that. And there seems to have been a lot of thought put into the pathways and what tools are available to what team and what position players have to be in to get certain advantages. And I think that all will lead to some really interesting matches on this particular map. And it was another map that I hope ends up making it. Another map that I hope will end up finding its way into the competitive ladder at some point so that we can see some teams exploit how many tactical options are available to them based on what these map makers had in mind. Yes, some rooms look a little plain and not in a way where it's beneficial to the aesthetic. It just seems kind of out of place based on the rest of it. And yes, some areas of the map definitely seem like they could have used more, or I guess less time and detail, time and effort, because of the fact that less is more in that situation. And I do stand by all the other junk that I was talking about when it comes to changing this area, but I think in general, it's a really strong map, and it has some really exciting prospects to the bomb sites, and I would like to see more like this, I guess. More specifically, I just want to see teams actually start to take to these maps, which unfortunately won't happen for like pro teams, obviously, but maybe there could be some sort of push in the community to create more amateur-styled league or something. I don't know. Really, the likelihood of anything like that happening is pretty low, but a man can dream. And a man can also drink some chlorine. So that's my rhyme for you. There's Mike. And yeah, see you later.